Cool. I can monitor the time from right there. So we're rolling.
How do you think I dressed today?
I like it, man. I dig the cross.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, I had my notes too because I knew I would get nervous talking to a celebrity.
That's so funny.
So the first question I wanted to ask you is, I know you're not an A-list actor, right?
Cool, yeah.
What are you?
What am I?
Is there such a thing as a B-list or C-list? Or
I think I would call it like an up-and-coming actor, rising star. I don't know, whatever you... Like, I was talking to my friend Jackie, who I did the play with in Santa Fe, and she was like, "You're a star. You're a star." And I was like, "Okay." I think my old manager said it best. Like, I used to obsess about trying to tell people or make people think I'm a thing versus just like being who I am. And he said the best thing was every day try to wake up and change somebody's life for the better, and then like you can be one person's star a day. And he's like, that's what you should focus on. So like the whole like mumbo jumbo of like that stuff I'm trying to like avoid. That's why I don't do social media and stuff like that, because I think it pollutes the purity of what I want to make versus like I think if you focus on story and really ground yourself in like the world of the story, then all of that stuff happens. All of that stuff happens when it should and when it can. Because I don't want to anything that's not deserved or earned, you know? So who knows? I mean, in terms of working actors in LA, or in the world, like it's 1% of like 1% that consistently like gets work. You know, most people, at least in my experience, are juggling a lot of different things to sustain working, you know? And it's like, it boils down to like, what would you do if you weren't getting paid? And well, I would still be doing what I'm doing. So like, it doesn't change anything. Yeah.
how much of the business of like, because you know, like in video production, you're only shooting kind of a small percentage of the time, and then you've got all this back end stuff with the post production and client accounting. Like, how much of that is your life? How much do you get to act?
Oh man, like we've been gearing up. So I'm starring in a movie in June, and super low budget. But we've been gearing up for that for 6 months. And so that's been every day outside of just general living life and managing like that. I've been just focusing on all of the logistics of that. You know, that means like making sure that the right people are on board, making sure that they know what's happening, making sure that you're mitigating any potential issues, any risks. And the plan is clear, and then everyone is like on the same page. So I think if you're talking about like a percentage, I would say it's like 1 to 10. Like 10 is like doing all of this like planning and like thinking about the world. And then 1 is like when you're on set actually doing it. And I think that people don't have a sustainable career oftentimes because they're not willing to do that ratio, the 10 to 1. And sure, it might start to shift. Like you might start to be able to do those other things. But like I've been doing this since I was like 14, and it ebbs and flows, you know, like I booked like 2 TV shows and 2 movies in 2019 or something. And then it's just like it tapers and then it comes back, and then it tapers and it comes back. And so I think the people that really sustain are people who build their own production companies, who generate their own projects that exist. A lot of the industry right now too is moving towards indie, like lower budget films, because they're seeing that these like larger tentpole films are just not, the investment is a little bit more risky. And so, but that even ebbs and flows, you know, like where the industry will go through like a 10-year period where they're doing a lot of indie stuff and they're putting a lot of time and effort into that because the risk is higher for profit. And then it shifts and then it goes into the, you know, these big tentpoles again. So really, I just think like, what was the question?
Well, it was about how much time do you get to spend acting versus all these other things. But I guess in that same line, I'm thinking like, how do you like, I'm trying to imagine if I'm given the role of an actor, my head's like, I've got to memorize these lines. Yeah. And then you've got to think about like, how much are you thinking about when you're acting and a scene is being filmed and you're in character, how much of your brain is devoted to like the camera's over there, the light's over there, I got to hit this mark. am I remembering the line? Like, how
Well,
much of your mind
that's
is
the trick of the acting world, is to just instinctually know that stuff and just like throw it away, you know? So like playing with time and space and stuff. And if you know cameras, which you do, and I do, it's like you're able to, a lot of actors, I think, don't necessarily understand the production world. And so like I do. So I know what it takes to do every single thing somebody's doing on set. I know exactly what it takes for them to do that. And so I know how to make it easy for them. And so I think it's easier for them to like work with me because I know where to hit the mark. I know like where to find that. And so you know that stuff and then you throw it away, you know, and then you just be completely present. Like you find, like I was talking to my friend Danny, she's an actress, Danny McCallum, and McCallum. I was talking to her about that, and she was talking about her process is just to completely put herself in the world, not even visualize the elements of the world because she doesn't want to think, like put something in her head that's not what it is in reality. And then she shows up and she just is present. So she memorizes the lines and then she shows up and she's present. For me, my process is like gearing up for Help Wanted, the thing we're doing in June, is like I listen to the script every night. I listen to it anywhere I can go. I read it. I literally think about it in any scenario I can. The line, the world, and the words. And I really love being involved with projects on such an intimate space because you can kind of like tweak it to fit your instincts a little bit more. Like if you collaborate well with the director, you get to like kind of really balance and tweak and contribute part of yourself to it rather than trying, like I've always struggled with the idea of, sorry, I'm just rambling, but
no, it's good.
I've always struggled with the idea of like people saying like, oh, I need to fit into something else. I need to become something else. And I think that like it's way more exciting to think of like what parts of me can I give to this? Like who am I for this? And I think that that's like the idea of generating it from the self out versus waiting for the out to define the self. Yeah.
That's fascinating because I'm still in my head. I'm still like imagining if it were me and someone's like, okay, action. I'm like, how much of what you're acting is learned from, say, acting school? Like I've noticed from your trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you come across as very like whatever you're doing, it seems believable. Like nothing seems forced. Like how do you decide where your eyes go? How do you decide what expression to give at what moment? I mean, it seems like there's a million ways it could come out.
I think that it's funny because I don't even like, maybe some actors think about all those beats and stuff. I used to be really analytical on how to break stuff down and like audition and like, but I think that I take a breath and then I feel like it's this external documentary on like a moment of time. And so how I am and who I am in this moment is able to connect in this weird film game. So however I show up, as long as I'm being present and holding my space and taking a breath and being there and understanding, like doing the work, showing up and doing the work, which is like,
I need to do that right now. Sorry. Showing up and doing the work. Sorry to interrupt.
No, exactly. But like you do the pre-production stuff, you build the world in your head, you understand every single aspect of who your character is. And that just comes from reading it and not going over something that you have any questions about. Like every single thought I have, I'll send to the director and that's just like, sometimes it bugs directors, but that's how I approach it. And so if somebody wants to work with me, that's how I approach it. If they don't want to, that's okay. But I really want to be, because I think as actors, you have choices and you have to be smart and give everything you have to this beautiful craft that we get to be part of. But yeah, I think that like holding your space is huge and letting people feel the weight of who you are in a space. That's fun for me. So it's funny, like a project I did a while back, I was playing this like sidekick, like kind of guy that gets his ass kicked by this sushi chef guy. And and I remember I was in my head, I was like, I'm really scared because I just saw my buddy get his ass kicked and now my boss is telling me to go fight this guy. And so I was genuinely like, they call it the moment before as an actor, but it's like what is happening before action, like what is going on in the character's head. And so you always try to like get into that moment and then you sit in that moment and then they call action. It's not like action is giving you, all action does is it means like the world for everyone else starts, but like that world should start way before action hits, and then they just catch up. It's like everything, you know what I mean?
That makes a ton of sense. And then how much of that do you think about when you're acting? Are you thinking about continuity? Like, okay, when he cut that scene, my hair was over here or whatever.
Yeah. So it depends on the scope of the project. I think that it's like a computer where you have like, you have peripherals that can run separate functions. And so if there's less peripherals, like a script supervisor or continuity would be, continuity would be standardly focusing on making sure that all of that stuff is smooth, like the lighting, or not the lighting, but the hair or the props. Like if I pick this up, do I put it back here? And at what point did I say those words when I pick this up? So if they cut to the wide, is it going to match that? I think that is what a professional actor just has to run in the backdrop. It's like a back processing system, So
you're not that conscious of it.
Yeah, I'm not that conscious of it. It comes into my brain. It's more of like when I do an action, because when you shoot a scene, it depends on how the director does it. But if you're able to like be involved in that, okay, they're going to start with the wide establishing, and that wide establishing kind of gives you the keys on what you do in the scene. So wide establishing, if I'm talking to you and then I like pick up the water, when I say like, wow, that's a really cool painting, or that's a really cool photo, and then I know when we go back to the closer, I have to do that at the exact same time. I just log it in my brain on that first establishing. But the trick is to make sure you like what the establishing is. So that's like, I feel like that's the play with the director and the actor and everybody, is like, do we like how this establishing shot looks? And then can we move in for coverage closer to cover any of those gaps? So it definitely is running in the back, to answer your question.
So it sounds like directors could be anything from a top-down tyrant of they're directing you. You're going to act exactly the way they want you to act. And then you probably have to go into this mode, I'm imagining, where you're like, all right, this director is just like that. I guess I have to follow all their... Versus a more collaborative director who's like, what do you think, Levi? This is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
But does that disrupt the process? Like the script, the storyboarding? Like what if there's this moment, or is there a moment when you go like, wow, this actually, let's like rewrite it like this?
Yeah, I think that those are the magical moments that everybody like fights for, like because you have to just. So to answer your first question, yeah, directors like vary. I worked on a project where I felt like I was just a mechanical piece in the director's painting, which is fine, like it felt like he knew exactly what he wanted to do and he didn't care about any input from me. And I was like, okay, cool, I could do that. And so I just like made sure I hit my beats. I made sure I brought my own stuff. And then there's people who are like, okay, how does it feel right here? Like, does this feel natural? And it's all about feely. And then that's fun as well, because you find those different beats. I lost my train of thought. What was the second point?
Well,
sorry.
I think I did too. But I guess I'm wondering though, like, maybe it's how do actors respond? I guess every actor is going to respond different too. Like maybe some actors want to be told exactly what to do, and some want that freedom. And I guess there's just a lot of leeway, and every project's different. And I guess that's the whole magic of it, right?
So yeah, for that, when I first started acting, I always wanted to be told what to do. I always wanted the director to tell me how to make him happy or her happy. And then the more I do my work, the more I'm like, am I happy with what I'm bringing? And because I've directed like shorts and stuff like that, I look at like what has helped me when I'm in that position. And that's like an actor who just completely takes full responsibility of their space and their world. And they bring it and say, hey, this is my offering. This is what I'm bringing. And then you go like, if I don't have to worry as a director, if I'm walking into a space and I don't have to worry about telling the actor what to do because he already knows what he's doing, I mean, that's one less thing to worry about. So then I can go like focus on something else. And so like I've heard like Clint Eastwood directs very specific where, he does like the one take with people and you get what you get with him. And so like you have to show up and know and be very responsible with what you're bringing, because that's what you're bringing. And then there's the directors that are like, really want to play in that world with the actor.
My dog's drinking. He's going to show up in the audio, I'm sure.
Cute. But you see what I'm saying? So it definitely varies, but that's the sensitivity like I've met a lot of directors. Opus, this film that's coming out, I met with that director for a role on that, and he's wonderful and he's like doing some good work. But when we met, there was less of a creative chemistry at that time with how we thought about stuff. And so like that's completely okay. I mean, it's like it's best that he finds somebody who sees it the way he sees it. And when you cast, like once you're done casting, it's really hard to like the actors are kind of going to do what they're going to do. You can only meld them so much. So once something's cast, you're pretty like locked in on the casting. So yeah, it's just like trusting and building that chemistry, reading what the kind of the director is, and going from there. So.
I'm looking at you with your golden locks of hydrogen peroxide stained hair. And not that long ago, you had this big old bushy beard and black hair. And I mean, how much of your life are you looking the way you look for the sake of a role you're playing?
Oh, for sure. I think that I think I process my work very externally, and I don't know if that's just because I'm coming from an insecure spot from I heard somebody talk about this. John Bernthal talks about this with Shia LaBeouf, where he processes his work externally, but personally, I was like, oh, I see that because I feel like I have to prove that I'm doing the work or something. But I'm learning to like let it sit inside more. So like with the beard and stuff, I was writing and developing Tramp, which is really doing really well. I'm almost done with the book now, which is crazy, and a big painting. But sorry, and so that was like it was about this guy that was on the fringe, and he had his beard, he had his long hair, and I just felt like that was what I needed at that time to write the world. And so it's one of those instincts where you feel it and you hear it and you're like, okay, that feels right. And I have to trust my instincts. So then I did that. And then it's weird because then I look at the world and then the world reflects back at me in a different way, just off of appearance. And so that's like, I know that look is going to be in the movie now. Like I know that that's an important part, whether I direct that or I'm just acting in it, whatever. Then for Help Wanted, it's like my character steps into the world at a point where he just had a mental breakdown, and he wanted to end his life, and so I asked my buddy Christian, old friend Christian Puckett, and because I saw him and I was like, hey, why did you dye your hair? Because he did this to his hair, and he was like, well, it was a cry for help, and it hit me. I was like, oh, that's wild. And so then it's like, okay, how do I process this character that's a cry for help? The movie's called Help Wanted. It's about recovery and asking for help, especially men's mental health. Is like we don't know how to speak about that stuff. And I think we're getting better at it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither. But you know what I mean. So that was like the expression of that felt like that was the right choice. So a lot of it, to answer your question, I think I ramble a lot, but to answer your question, yeah, it's completely like a expression of finding the character through the physical as well as through the internal practice. So
cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the early experience for you getting into acting, but I have this other thought I want to touch on before and see if it makes any sense. When, I do video production, right? So I have a client, they have a need, I make a video, and it always will go through this iterative change process when I run it by the client the first time. I try to like give them a ta-da, here it is, as close as I can get it. And if I'm lucky, it's like, oh, you spelled this person's name wrong. We need to move this shot. That person doesn't work here anymore.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, the client's happy. I'm happy that the client's happy. The moment for me when it gets published to YouTube or it's out there on LinkedIn or something, and I'm like, there it is. There's the video.
Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of the moment for you as an actor, is the moment the acting, or is it when it's on the screen and because you don't get to run it by the client of the patron paying to see the movie. They're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. So what for you is the moment where you're like experiencing the fullness of the whole project?
That's a great question. I think it varies on the degree of involvement with the project. I think if it's coming from a project I'm really intimately involved in, I try to practice just feeling it every step of the way. I think that I have this fall off after a project's done. Like I did that play in Santa Fe in my father's house with Jackie Kane and Gary Brown. It was wonderful. And that project, when it ended, I was like in a vat of just like, what am I doing? Because it was the most exciting thing, and that's theater. So it's like you live in that moment for the theater. And so that one was like when we did our final bows, like that was like this like moment of reprieve, and it was beautiful. But it depends. I think that if it's on a project I'm doing with somebody else that I'm not super intimately involved in, like when I was on The Cleaning Lady or these other TV shows, Graves, Sergeant Will Gardner, like these other things, I was less involved as intimate with the story as I was just a person participating in somebody else's thing. And so I was just enjoying being on set and running around and being a goofball with people, like going and like making jokes with the crafty people, or like, you know, that like talking with the camera people that I know, like, cause I don't know. I've met a lot of really great people. So I see all my friends when I'm on set, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And so that's the fun of it, you know? Yeah.
Cool.
So it just depends, varies.
When Bonnie and I were watching Fast Color that one time, and it's like, there you are, you pop up in the convenience store. Yeah. It's like, no way, that's Levi. It for a moment, it broke the suspension of reality, because it's like, oh, I know this person. Yeah. But I guess my question is, like, when I watch a movie, believe it or not, I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I just am.
He's awesome.
He is awesome.
Yeah.
And when I watch his movies, like if I'm watching Edge of Tomorrow, yeah, I am so bought in that this is, I mean, I know in the back of my head, it's that process of this is a movie, these are actors, but I'm so invested in it. And, you know, but if you met Tom Cruise, you'd be like, this is not the guy from Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah. Like, this is an actor.
What's scary, I have friends who have met him, and they say he's like that same person. Like, they say he's just that intense, and that, like, a friend of mine said she said they were at some event together, and he came up to her and was talking to her, and she called it giving somebody what was it called? Holding space for somebody's beingness, I think she said. And she said he does it really well, where he'll just like be there present with you, and it's really intense almost, but he's just there supporting your humanity. So yeah, I feel like he's a tough one, because he's very, from the people that I know that have met him, he's very similar to the way he is in projects. So
I had the chance to meet Val Kilmer in 1998, shortly after I moved here. It was actually a shoot for Architectural Digest, and it was his house up in Tasuke. And I just knew him from I knew him from like Willow, but I really knew him from Top Secret, because that was like my favorite spoof movie ever, you know? And there was a scene I wanted to ask him about so bad, but there was no opportunity to, just the shoot didn't allow for me to get that chance with him. But the photographers that had come from LA, it was a photographer and an assistant, and they were kind of like gossiping about him, like, I hear he's a jerk and stuff. He couldn't have been more nice. He couldn't have been more wonderful and polite, and maybe because he was at home, I don't know. But I mean, this is a roundabout way of me getting something for you. If you hit stardom, and I know you're a celebrity already, but if you get to where you can't walk down the street without people going, that's Levi, like, are you ready for that? Have you prepared for that?
How do you prepare for that?
Have you prepared for that?
I think that keeping family close and keeping like priorities and knowing that no one deserves that, like that's not like a normal existence by any means. I think that I keep pretty like close to myself anyways when I'm like out and about. But if people talk to me, I'm generally like I try to be really present. But if I like when I like being in my little bubble, you know? So, I hope I'm ready for that. I think that, I hope that I have enough people around me that love me and care about me, that will keep me accountable and keep me kind and keep me loving and keep me grounded in like the true things that matter. Because I hope that I could bring that to other people as well, in how I show up. to the world, you know?
Is it your desire to be a celebrity at that level, be recognized, or is that not even really part of it?
I think that that's a tool to getting to make the projects I want to make. I don't necessarily think it's like an objective. I think that ego can drive that objective. And I think that, again, it goes back to my opinion about what makes a good story, is like the purpose of why it's like, what is the story about? Like, how is it going to affect the world? What does it represent to the world? And so people make movies for different reasons. They make them because they're fun and exciting. And so like, if that's the world, then, you know, that's one thing. I think that like, I continually go back to this idea is like, is somebody in it for the spectacle or for the story? And I think the spectacle is like the celebrity and like that kind of like to be loved and adored by people. And I think the longer I've been around this stuff, I just fall away from that. Like, and the more it's about the story and being grounded in what the project's purpose is. Yeah, like if I wanted to be in that world, I think my life would have been shaped very differently thus far. Like I could have been doing the YouTube stuff that all my, you know, former friends were doing that are, you know, making lots of money and doing, everyone knows their face, you know, and I chose to step away from that because I knew I wanted to do it a different way. And I'm not interested in the celebrity. I'm not interested in like that world. I'm interested in like the story, and I couldn't care less about that stuff, genuinely. Like, I like painting and I like,
music.
Yeah.
You're a good musician.
Yeah.
Good singer.
Thanks. So those, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Now you got me, what you just said reminded me. So there was Antisocial with Christian, which was, you guys really were ahead of your time.
Thanks.
I mean, seriously, like you must have had that vision of where YouTube was headed or something, because you guys had a popular channel and you were doing funny pranks before there were a lot of channels like that, or many, I don't know, but the production quality was really good. Like you guys had mics on, you could hear everything clearly, and you guys had, your personalities were funny. And then one day I'm on and maybe it was just because I was watching Antisocial videos and this other channel popped up. Was it Churdley's?
Yeah, Chad.
And there's you on there. And I'm like, oh wow, that's and then talk to me about LA. Did you go there to be an actor then? Or what was going on back then?
So Christian and I kind of visited LA a few times for the YouTube stuff. He had an interest in the YouTube world. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So we started building that channel. Then we met a lot of these other people that were doing funny stuff, you know, or adolescent stuff. I don't know what you would call it.
Immature.
Yeah, childish.
Childish.
Like screaming for attention. I don't know. But sorry. but so then I moved out there, and my interest was always acting, like understanding the film industry, writing, and doing that world, you know. But that other world is like a lot easier to attain, but I think it's shorter term value per se. Yeah. So I went out there, I started doing these other videos with like Andrew Hale's Loft, Shirley's, Danny Duncan, Dawson, Big Dawes TV, who else? Royal Stallion, like all these channels that were pretty big. Like they were doing pretty well. And it was tantalizing to be like, oh, I could become that, you know, but it wasn't enough. And so I stepped away. I stopped doing the channel. Christian decided to kind of go in his direction. He has a family now, and he's just like a consistent, diligent person showing up for his wife and his kids. And I think it's beautiful. But I stepped away from that because I, again, wanted to understand the other side of the industry, which is more of the story and like building film that lasts a long time. A friend told me at one time, he said, would you rather become like famous overnight and then like burn out or like turn in like what is it they call it, like a overnight celebrity, and then you're just
one hit wonder,
yeah, or would you rather to create like a sustainability? And so like looking at a healthy trajectory of a career, I think that it's okay to take your time to get there. and you're right where you want to be and where you need to be as long as you're putting the work in. And you don't have to rush, you know. I'm not in a rush. I think that I'm really happy with where I'm at, and yeah, so I'm happy to have kind of moved away from those types of projects. Because I shot a lot of their videos, like Chad's, some of his earlier videos that went viral, like I shot and like planned with him, and like they got like millions of views on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, or like Andrew, same thing. We made videos that blew up for him, and then so that was like a really cool feeling to be like, oh, like I can do that. But then it's stepping back and then just figuring out what I want more, which is not the celebrity. Like, I don't want that. Like, I don't care about that. It's like the personal self is way too sacred for me to like sacrifice it. I'm too selfish.
I care about it, Levi, because I want to say I know you when you're famous. That's all. That's all. The only reason I'm doing this. No, let's go back to the very beginning. Yeah. Was it the thing with the house remodel that you first got exposed to, or were you in it before that?
Yeah, I think that initially, so I saw Zorro when I was like probably like 9 or 10 or something. I remember we were on like a trip somewhere, and I was on this old little TV, and I saw
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas, and it was wonderful. It changed my life. I didn't know what movies were, and then I see this thing. And then I was
you
like,
know what movies were until you were 9?
Well, it was like I saw Aladdin and I saw these things, but I think that was the first like kind of like movie that wasn't for kids that I saw.
Gotcha.
Except like I snuck like Last of the Mohicans when my parents were watching it. Like I was like peeking around the corner while they were like, go to bed. And I'm like, but look. And so I saw it was like a movie where I saw somebody that looked similar to me and like came from a world that was similar, and it felt like special, and I thought like I want to do that. There's these choreography scenes of them fighting and like just this crazy spectacle of beautiful people making stuff, and that was awesome. And then Extreme Makeover thing happened a few years later, where this gentleman Matt Fisher was one of the producers of that, but that whole craziness happened where they built the house for us. Because of a lot of what my mom and dad were doing, not what I was doing. I was just a little punk kid that, you know, would pretend sword fight. And so, yeah, that was like the first step where all of a sudden, like, my family was on national TV, and people knew who we were, and people, you know, people I didn't know were talking to me. And that was like a weird experience where all of a sudden there's this inflow of really positive care and attention to who I am as a person that I felt was like really undeserved. I was like no one deserves this. And so I think that there's a progression of trying to continue to, like, that happened, and then we were on top of the world, and then my dad passed away, and so I had to decide, like, how do I process this and what's valued in life? And so I kind of like tried to move away from the possessions, like things bringing value, and then try to figure out something deeper. And that was definitely a process. So yeah. But that took me into doing more acting stuff. Sorry to answer your question.
No. But you weren't really acting in that show per se, right? I mean, they're just, it's like, what do they call that? Good grief. What was the real
reality
world?
TV?
Thank you. Yeah. Reality TV.
Yeah, we weren't acting, but it was definitely like there were cameras and there were people and there was a whole production. So it was the first time I saw like this large scale production take place and in front of my eyes. So I think that's more of what was interesting about it, was all of a sudden, like, from in front of the camera, you go behind it and you go, oh, this is, it's like going behind the Wizard of Oz. You go behind the screen or whatever.
I have this. So when you say that, I'm thinking, like, I love Gold Rush. That's a reality TV show I love. And it's like, oh, dang, the chain broke on the excavator. Got to call Parker. And I'm thinking, as I'm watching and listening, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're clearly mic'd.
Yeah.
Because that camera is a telephoto lens way away, and I can hear him clear as day. So he's mic'd. Yeah. And I wonder if this was a real, how much of it, like, hey, Parker, do that one more time. Like,
yeah. How much is scripted versus,
how much is it? Like, we need you to say that again. Say that to him again or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't speak for that, but my experience, I would say it was like 80-20. So 80 was like real. 20 was like them being like, okay, that was really good. Can you kind of like talk more into this point? So like it's like coverage on a thing. You get that master, and then you kind of go in for inserts on what you think like the main points were, so I think that's more probably like 80-20. Like, I mean, not to like I feel bad pulling like the veil over behind that show because it's such a wonderful show. But like they were in contact with us for like 2 to 3 years before the house was ever built for us. So we knew we were in the running. It's not like we just woke up one day and like Ty's outside. It's like we knew that they had interest in us being one of the families for it, which is cool. And makes more sense. Like you think about it as a producer, you're like, how do they coordinate this? They can't just put them in a car. Like they'd have to buy tickets before. They'd have to know that there are not serial killers. Like they'd have to do their due diligence to make sure that everything's okay. So
yeah, I don't think most people realize that when they watch. Like the average person that watches TV or watches a movie, they don't know all these little things that had to happen beforehand, or maybe these setups. And something else you said that made me think is like, and I have had this thought for a long time that I could see it coming where there's like an end of superstardom. And I've always used Tom Cruise as my like go-to, like he'll be the last of the superstars. There won't be any more superstars because the decentralization of video production and television production. And like when I look at Netflix or Disney, and Bonnie and I are trying to, what are we going to watch? It's like, like there's so many options and the production quality is getting better and better and better. And it's like, and there's so many, it just seems like the industry is exploding. Yeah. And the appetite is insatiable.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I was talking my buddy Randall Wilkins. He's a talented production designer. He did a bunch of Captain America films, a bunch of stuff. I was talking to him, and he was saying that everything's moving to indie because of that. And I think that there will still be some of these like larger kind of tentpole films that happen. Like I don't think you're not going to see Christopher Nolan doing like an indie low budget film. Like you're not going to see Tarantino doing that. You're not going to see these like staple people. So I think that there is a cycle of that for sure. I think indie's going to be where it's at. So
is it going to be in front of the television set more than anything?
I think this is the way I say it. When I was a kid, I used to flip through the Comcast like little box and go to all these different channels, and they had different stuff that you could watch on them. And I don't see it any different now, where we go to the computer or basically the computer TV thing, and then we flip through different networks, like, oh, is it Netflix or is it Paramount or is it Disney Plus or whatever? We flip through those, and then there's different stuff that they're pushing that's on the front page. So like, I don't know. I think the biggest shift is like the means of production is the barrier to entry is smaller. But I think it just distills that good stories have to push through. Like, I don't think spectacle is going to pay off as much as like just good grounded story. That's what I'm betting on. So,
yeah, I mean, movies, they're like music. They can change your life, or they become a metaphor. Like to me, The Matrix is just the perfect metaphor for so many things. Yeah. I have so many lines. I mean, and as a kid, I came from the era of, I saw Star Wars in the theater when it came out in 1977. I was a 7-year-old kid. Wow. It blew my mind. Yeah. And I didn't even understand what was happening. It was kind of like you watching Zorro. For me, it was Star Wars. It was like, oh my gosh. But then a few years later, when the behind the scenes documentaries would come out on PBS, and like Phil Tippett, who did the little monsters and the claymation, I was like, oh my God. Like that's what got me thinking about the nuts and bolts, soup to nuts, whatever the metaphor is for what makes a movie. I guess that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm not so much interested in acting per se, but I want to get back to the acting theater versus film. I mean,
Yeah.
which do you have a preference? What's better?
I mean, I love theater. Theater's something's just magical with theater. Like theater is like distilled the best parts of film. It's just like that every night. Like it's basically you get to write, to produce, and to make, and to show an audience. It's like the whole film production cycle, but every day, like every night when you're doing it, because every time you do it, it's new. Once it starts, you can't stop it. And at the end, you get to like stand in front of an audience doing something you love and giving your whole heart and soul to something and being like, like hands down, theater is just magical.
Is it a way you can make a living? I mean, do you make enough doing that to do between theater work, acting, you can make a living doing this?
Yeah, I think that like one of the biggest, at least over my time, one of the biggest things that I feel is convoluted in the actor's life is this necessity for us to prove that we make like a living solely off of acting to make us feel like we're an actor. And I'm like, look, like all the smart people that I know, they have passive income, they have other ways of making money so that they can do what they love, not so that they can like I don't know, like I act and I do and I write and stuff because I love it. And if I was having to like make sure that it's financially like always equitable in the short term, then I think I wouldn't be doing it for the right reason. I think that in the long term, those investments definitely pay off. But I'm not worried like until I'm like positioned in a different spot in my career, like I'm just doing projects that I love and I care about, and I hope that doesn't change. I think the people I do it with, hopefully don't change either. Hopefully we all get to grow together. Like we all come up together. And, so I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it's really similar to stand-up comedy. It's like, when are you a comedian? Are you a comedian because you did a open mic night once or twice? Or are you a comedian because that's how you earn every penny you make? Yeah. It's a similar kind of a thing. Yeah. it's a creative industry. It's a creative field. And it's just, I don't know, but acting to me is just, maybe it's the era I grew up in, but it's still like you just see an actor is like, wow, what a cool job that is, and you don't necessarily have any concept of what goes. That's why I was curious to ask about like your methods for compartmentalizing in your brain as you're acting, like the camera's there, or do you ever have moments where you're doing your scene and you're all of a sudden you're super self-conscious of like, oh, I should have looked this way when I did that, or I should have done this, like. I
think periods of time, definitely I've had that. Like right now, the camera's here. I don't even notice them. The mics. I don't know. I think you get to a point. But you get to a point where you just you just, I don't know. I don't worry about them. I hope, like, that's why I love working with like a director of photography that I can trust, because I'm like, I know that's what he's worrying about. Like he's worrying about the way it looks. I just have to worry about showing up, and then like if he has feedback on how I move or whatever, then like that's perfect. But it's also like visualizing in your mind. Like if you can close your eyes and see what you feel like they would want to see, or like if the camera can't see you, like if I'm here, then I know that the camera can't see me, versus like here that I know it can, or I don't want to cut too close this way to cut the light off your face or to cut the camera angle. So like knowing those things just comes from experience and just comes from being on both sides of the camera. So, and editing, I think every actor should like edit, because they know what it's like to have to cut together like non-continuity things. And so if an actor wants to make their stuff into a theater, or like if they're on a project and they don't want their stuff to get thrown on the cutting board floor or whatever, like edit your own stuff. And then see, so you're not like, it's most of the time it's just because they can't cut it together right, not because they don't want it to be in there. So yeah.
I said another thought earlier. We were talking about, I said kind of superstardom. Max Q was Tom Cruise, and now it's getting more diluted because there's more opportunity, and so. But do you have any opinions about where we're headed right now with AI and all of like what is entertainment in the visual medium look like in 10 years, you know?
I was talking to my buddy Keith Jardine. He's like a filmmaker. He was an MMA fighter, but now he's a filmmaker and really talented guy. And he was arguing the same thing. He's like, we're not going to be watching movies in 50 years and 30 years. And I hope and pray we do. I don't know. I love film. I think that it's going to change the way we do it for sure. But I think there's a difference between movies and between like intellectual property or characters and story, because story can transcend being in a movie or not. Like Captain America can be Captain America, whether he's in a video game, a movie, or a television show. So how do you make stories like that can become more than just a thing in a story, like, or a thing in a movie? So I think that's like, if you're focused on those things, I think that's a more sure bet to sustain past like these AI developments, or because like Mickey Mouse is Mickey Mouse. Like,
you just give me an idea though. What about like, you know how people like they'll dress up and go to a Celtic festival with their little battle axes and root beer cups? Like what if there's like, you can go into the future in 50 years, they've got like these film festivals where it's like we're bringing out tripods and lights and you can stand in front of a camera and we'll reenact this scene from To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever. Like you can almost see that becoming this like a festival of, because you're right. Like they won't remember, well, what was that? There used to be actors behind the scenes and like, anyway, I guess that whole technology side to me is fascinating. I loved the original Tron that was produced in the early 80s. Yeah. Jeff Bridges.
I think Bruce Logan, the DP. I worked with the DP.
Really? Wow.
He was a wonderful dude.
They had to make like 5 plates of 20 by 24 film and rephotograph every one in sequence to get the glowing uniforms. It was insane. And like today, you would just do all that in the computer. And I
know, but it's still sustained. Like for me, like that. Like I think
it's a story.
Like Bruce, it's a story, but also the way they produced it. It's tough. So I look at some CG nowadays and it just feels cheaper compared to some things I've seen in the past. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey still feels so like visually convincing. And Bruce Logan was on that too. Really great guy, but like to think about how to get it all on camera right away for me is like the most inspirational thing. Miniatures and all that stuff. I think that those sustain longer than digital CGI. CGI is easier, but CGI is continuing to progress and it will only get better. So if you're using that, in 10 years, there's going to be like, that's the newer style of CGI is going to be different and look different, and that older one will be aged. But if you can get it all on camera with like practical effects, I think it takes more creativity and more planning, but I think it will sustain longer because again, it's going to be real versus like this will get better. The CGI, and it probably will get matchable to reality, just AI in general and stuff. But why not just get it in reality and then you don't have to play the game of like, that's my opinion. I don't know.
Interesting.
The progression of, because like, I don't know. That was a rambling plethora of thoughts.
Well, let me get back onto a little bit more acting zone. I can't think of a good word, but I like sci-fi dystopia.
Yeah.
Dune, Matrix, what do you like? I mean, are you more into real stories or
like, okay, well, those feel like real stories to me. Like
they do.
Dune, Matrix used a lot of CGI, but it's still a great project. But like Star Wars, like my jam is like early George Lucas Star Wars, like Dune practicals, like Blade Runner, like these. Like I love those films just because of the way they were crafted. Like practicals, I love practicals. I love miniatures. Like that stuff just feels so fun to me. Like Randall Wilkins, my friend who has done a lot of production design. He did work on Megalopolis, and which is not a great, it didn't have great reviews, but the work he did on it is absolutely beautiful. Like what he was on there for was he helped them build this whole miniature city, and then built like it to scale, built just like, basically he had to first 3D render this whole space in his head and then create it in a computer generated space, and then create miniatures to match at scale. So they got from bigger to smaller because they knew the camera was moving laterally, so that it would make it feel like the space was farther, and they were scaled to a certain size so that statues could be human. And so there was human life statues, but they were supposed to be giant in the shot. And so like just to think about how to build something like that in reality, is just like, that's magic. That's cool. So they could have done it in CGI, and I just don't think it wouldn't be the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
force perspective and stuff is so cool.
Dude, that's fun.
Yeah.
So
it is fun, man. Yeah, my dad had a Super 8 Yashica that would do individual frames with a cable release. And so I would move the car, click, click, make these little scenes of cars skidding or whatever, just kind of having fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So much. I heard this. Did you listen to the Lex Friedman podcast with, I don't want to get this guy's name wrong. My dog is snoring.
He's like, I did. No.
Robert Rodriguez, yeah. Did you listen to that interview with Lex?
I didn't, not yet, but I
didn't even know who that guy was. And they go through everything from like El Mariachi to and the guy's tenacity to work with what he had was insane. Like El Mariachi, he shot for $7,500, and he was joking. He was like, "It's one take. Actors, we get one take." And they're like, "Oh, well, let me do this again." No, that was it. It's one take. That's all we got. Because he had to develop the film and get it. Anyway, it was like fascinating. But talking about Tramp, this is kind of your big project, right?
Yeah, Tramp has been the one that's been cooking.
Tell me about it.
It's been like a slow roast, like a nice, like, I don't know.
The meat's falling off the bone.
It's nice. Tramp's, I left Fox Studios, Disney to do it. Like I could have stayed in the studio system, but I was like, I had conversations with them about where I was going and where they were going. And I was like, I want to make films and I don't want to be a pencil pusher, and I had this meeting with this guy and he sat me down and he said, look, you can be here for the next 20 years and you become like an executive and you do really well, or you can go make films. And like, he's like, I went to film school. I wanted to make films and I haven't. He's like, I've been here for 30 years. And so basically he was like, wink, wink, get out of here. Like it's too nice and it's too cush and life is easy. So I left, and then Tramp came from a short story I wrote before that. And then I developed it over the years. I had other people come on and try to help me kind of develop it. But the thing I've learned is like, you can only do your own push-ups. Like I can't have somebody else do my push-ups for me. So like I've had to go through and like change and fix stuff that I've had other people help me with just to like make sure that I'm doing my own push-ups. And so that script is locked. It's done. I'm going to Dubai in the next couple months to finish negotiations with finance people for that. And then I have a painting. So it's a 6x4 large painting from one of the scenes. It's oil paint. It's beautiful. And then I have the novel that I'm almost done with too. So for me, like, it's just like, take your time. Somebody told me, they said, if you write a movie and you didn't tell a soul about it for 10 years, that would be the key. He's like, just like keep it contained until it's right. And when it's right, it's going to be easy. So, yeah.
You said something there about going to Dubai for financing. I mean, do you know somebody, or are you just like, there's a lot of money in Dubai, I'll go check it out?
I've been negotiating with some people out there and have some really, really trusted people. And so I'm just going to go out there and do some due diligence, meet some people, and kind of see if that's the right direction to head. And I mean, there's plenty of opportunities, plenty of like, potential. There's people in New Mexico as well. I think it's reaching the point where it's like right where it needs to be. And yeah,
New Mexico. I mean, are we gonna? I mean, I know we've been doing this actually for a long time, for at least 20 years. We've been have the incentives and getting, maybe it's right around 20 years, 19, 20 years. Is it becoming what was envisioned? Do you like the direction you see it going? Is it giving you a sense of like, I can do more opportunity here at home? Or do you feel like, well, you know, Riley, of course, Riley was just in New York last week. And of course he gets back, he's like, I want to move to New York. Do you feel like to really get to where you want to be, you need to leave New Mexico, or do you think it's possible?
I tried that.
Yeah,
and like I already left. And when I left, I came back here, COVID, and I was talking with some executive friends of mine over at the studios, and I said, man, I was talking to him, I was like, man, I need to get back to LA. I need to get back to LA. I need to get back. And he kept going like, why? Like, why do you need to come back? And I was like, because I need to meet people. I need to, you know, and like had all these reasons in my head. And he's like, what can you not do from there? And I was like, huh. He's like, what can, like, you can't write stuff. You can't pick up the phone and call somebody. You can't you can't do that. And I was like, you're right. I guess I could. So it's just a lifestyle thing. Like, I don't know, like people go to California because they like the lifestyle. Like you can make films from anywhere. You can package a story. You can write something, call up, package, check availabilities of people from anywhere. You can do it from like one of my old manager friends, she hangs out in Spain all the time. She's just like chilling in Spain. She still does work in the US all the time. So like, I don't know, we put these like constraints on just doing our own push-ups a lot of the time. And I think if you just do your own push-ups, you get where you want to get. So
well, filmmaking's weird because you think about, like, I would think the same thing, like, well, yeah, you got to go to Hollywood. Yeah. The apparatus for filmmaking is there. You have your producers and your this and your that, and your catering trucks are all there. Yeah. But then you see a movie that blows up like the Blair Witch Project or something. Yeah. It's like, how does, and I guess it all goes back to what you started this whole conversation with, is that story is really the heartbeat of any film, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're shooting, they shot 28 Weeks Later, what is it? Cillian Murphy, the zombie movie. They shot that on an iPhone, and then or on like an old DV, and then they shot the next one on an iPhone. And then they're shooting 28 Years Later on another iPhone. Like, so yeah, like, I don't know. We put these constraints all the time again. And I there are real practical, like to get any project done, regardless if it's a film or whatever, you need like three functions. You need like the people with the actions, you need the resources, and then you need like a goal, like a vision, right? So like all three, like if one of those falls off, it's not going to happen. So as long as you have those three things in a space, then you can make it happen, you know? We talk about resourcefulness, like practicals and all that stuff. You can build a practical in here. You can build it like to go back to Randall Wilkins. He was saying, he's like, people always want to go to some studio or go to some like place to build sets. You can buy like some abandoned building and build a set out of that. Build a set in there. Just build some flats and then build whatever you want. Like so we put these restrictions on it, and I don't think we have to. So yeah.
Who are your favorite actors?
Well, my favorite actor, I mean, I
maybe start with like the actors that everybody would know.
Okay.
And then sort of work your way down to the levels of like people like you who are on the very bottom. The unknowns of the world.
Just the rising stars, you know.
The rising stars. Yes, perfect.
No, I think, I mean, I'm just thinking of like people, I think Brad Pitt's cool. Like,
he looks still like the cool. If you're a dude, that's who you want to look like.
Yeah, of course.
To this day,
I mean,
he's just cool looking.
Yeah, he's cool looking, and I met him, and he was super kind, and I think that was like really, really a special moment in my life where like reality kind of shattered and broke, and I was like,
"What do you mean?"
I was just like, "Oh,
were you expecting him to be a jerk or something?"
No, I just like. You just meet these people, and then you're like, oh, just be a human, and they're a human, and everything's fine.
What were the circumstances that you met Brad Pitt?
So I was working at the film studio, and what was I doing? I was cashing people out, because this was before I started doing more development stuff. I was cashing people out for some meal thing, for a party for Deadpool, and it was like they were filming Deadpool something, and he was walking by. I don't know, like when you're at the studio, it's very commonplace that just any random person that's doing work is going to walk by. So he walked by and I saw him, and then he looked at me, and then I didn't I just looked away, and then he walked past, and then he turned around, walked back over to me, and he said, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "Here," and he pulls out $100 bill and he hands it to me. And I was like, "What do you want me to do with this?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, well, thanks." And he's like, "Why don't you buy people's food with it?" So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I took his 100, and then I bought the next like 10 people's food that came through, or whatever, 5 people's food, with it. So that was like a cool moment. I don't know. He was just kind, like he saw somebody in space that was like, "Oh, cool. And then he made a point to like acknowledge my existence. And that was really special. So, yeah. But my point is like, he's great. In terms of work, I like Ryan Gosling's early work. I think that he did like a lot of really cool indie projects that, were awesome. I'm trying to think of other actors.
You don't have to go into depth on that. I want to know when
Cillian Murphy, he's cool. I don't know if it's Cillian or Killian, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I should know. I'm Murphy. I should know.
You should. He's your relative now.
So you mentioned this project that starts filming in June for what's that one called?
Help Wanted.
Help Wanted.
Yeah.
Is that filmed here?
Yeah, we're filming in Cuesta, in Albuquerque and in Cuesta. So
how big of a production is that?
So it's about like we're doing a lot of equity for partners on it. So besides that, I think hard cash is like $40K. So it's like a super indie project. We wrote it to be simple and easy to shoot, so we didn't have an excuse not to shoot it. I'm selling a piece of property and I'm putting that money into it. And there's a few other partners that are coming on too. So anyways, that's the back end. Says no one wants to hear that part.
Well, where will it be seen?
Yeah. The goal is that we make a good movie first and foremost, and then see what happens. So I don't know. Like, I think that people try to, like, the question always is like, how do you mitigate the risk? You make a good movie. That's the best way. So
you're going to make the movie, and then you shop it around to see who wants to.
Yeah. I'll call some friends. I'll call some old distribution companies and see what their thoughts are.
How much of like say take a Netflix or an Amazon, I don't know, how much of what content ends up on their platforms is they developed it, they had their, they have their own in-house teams versus someone who came to them and said, "Hey, I've got something you might want to show."
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know offhand what percentage. I do know that a lot of they'll either buy out projects because I think their business models, like licensing is not a good deal for them as much as if they own the rights full outright, then they can put their own marketing dollars into it, and then they're marketing their own product that they have long-term investment in. So I think that they're more incentivized when it comes to if they own the whole thing.
I never thought it's like if I get a music track from premiumbeat.com, there's some musician that did a spec track that uploaded it to the platform that maybe gets bought. And that's kind of what I guess it is. If you make a spec movie and you put it on Netflix and then you say, "Hey, we'll see who watches it." Yeah. It's just whoever decides to click on that. And then they go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that was let's talk to them more. Maybe we want to buy out their idea or their franchise or whatever." So interesting.
I think my goal is just to continue to try to stay grounded in making good films and then taking them to either festivals or calling up distribution companies, and then try to continue to build a model that makes profit on like film made, film sold, or film made, film licensed. It just depends on like what the deals are that are on the table at that point. So,
well, Levi Lobo. Cheers to you. Good luck, man. I know you're going to succeed because you just will. I know it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man.
Of course. Thank you.